Hey everyone, it's your favorite host Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show, and we have missed you guys today. We have a very special guest. This man is speaking to something that plagues a lot of us. He's a board-certified health coach, and he's helping people break free of the cycle. You know what I'm talking about, the emotional cycle. You saw it in the title, you saw it in the headline, you saw this man, you've seen him speak at conferences, you can find him on his business page, and he is helping people. He's on all social media platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, but we have the honor and privilege to interview this man here on the Gentleman Style Podcast stage today, and he's helping us figure out emotional eating disorders and fighting back and fighting this addiction and how we self-sabotage ourselves and the science behind it into stress eating and how he has done it. He has achieved greatness by losing over 100 pounds on all the things, over 100 pounds on just his plan alone. So that is significant. So help me welcome to the stage the incredible Mr. Coach Jon McLernon.
All right. I love that intro, and I even got applause. That just warmed my heart. What a great intro. That was awesome, man.
Absolutely. You are awesome, sir. What you do is significant, it's powerful, and is absolutely necessary to our future, right? Because we know health is wealth. If we're not eating right, we're not living right, we won't make it to the foreseeable future. And so I want to start off with a curveball because you have a softball, because you have an incredible mind. You could do anything and everything that you want to do. But what kicked it off for you? What ignited the passion in you? Because I remember seeing a docuseries that, it takes something big to really kickstart a change in life, a shift in life, whether it be any of the addictions, including eating disorders. What kicked it off for you, sir?
Well, I would love to tell people that it was just a sudden sort of lightning bolt from heaven, but really it started with a traumatic experience that just absolutely rocked my world, changed my life. I fell into binge eating and food addiction, and it was trying to find my way out. And I was using all the tools that I knew at the time and wasn't getting to where I wanted to go. And it was probably about 6 years into this intense battle with myself, with my emotional health, with my mental health, when a coach came into my life, and he absolutely changed my life and my world because of how he worked with me and how he treated me. He was the one, it's funny to say this as a Christian, but he was the one who really truly introduced me to compassion as it was intended to be. And that compassion was absolutely life-changing for me. He gave me the space to wrestle with my struggles. He didn't try to change me. He didn't try to force me to do anything. He didn't jam me into some kind of plan. He gave me the space to wrestle with my struggles. He gave me the respect to say, I value you as a person, regardless of what you're struggling with right now. And I'm going to be here because I see something in you. I believe this is possible for you. And so because of that, you can even borrow my belief in you until you believe in yourself enough to keep going with this. And that absolutely changed my life.
That is significant. And so it sounds like you had a coach, a mentor, an advisor, someone that spoke to the need, spoke to what you were needing without hurting you or harming you in the process. It sounds like this person was really influential in speaking to the young man and now the future you, who you are today. Yeah. He saw that before.
Well, what's I find is fascinating is I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today without the struggles that I had. And I think so much of what really added to and maybe extended my struggle was not wanting the struggle. And that's a really interesting thing to consider. I kept trying to find ways out of the struggle, out of the hard stuff. And that's what led me down the path of struggling and wrestling with addiction. In my case, this was food addiction predominantly, but there are other things that came to my life as well. And I was looking for an escape instead of being willing to go through the hard stuff. One of the things that I ask people when I work with them is what is something that will make you willing to be uncomfortable? Because if you're going to do this, if you're going to confront this, if you're going to get past this, we need to help you figure out what makes you willing to be uncomfortable. Once you know what that is, and I call this your emotionally compelling reason. Once you understand what that is, that becomes an anchor for the transformation you're trying to create in your life.
That's so true. And I want to ask the something. Why did you do it in the first place? Right. It's because in order to understand the struggle and to want to get out of it, I think when you can speak to this, we have to understand how we got into it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
what was that like for you?
yeah, so in terms of I was an athlete, like as a kid, as a teenager. I was an athlete at university. I didn't play at university level. I had a car accident that derailed that career, but nonetheless, I still engaged in a very athletic lifestyle. When I went through a seriously traumatic experience when I was living in South Africa, I was not equipped to deal with the fallout from that. I didn't have the tools, and so it wasn't necessarily this intentional choice, but it was this traumatized guy and brain like seeking out some sort of escape or relief from what I was experiencing. The difficult part about trauma is that you can't like turn off your brain. You can't climb out of your head. And there's a certain time and place where it's like my head doesn't feel like a safe place to be.
Mm,
And so the options are, well, I can end my life to escape it. And some people choose that, unfortunately. I can numb, maybe through substances, maybe through alcohol. In my case, it was largely through food. I feel actually surprisingly grateful that I didn't turn to hard drugs or alcohol, but I do understand now why some people would even choose those substances. So it wasn't necessarily a conscious choice, but rather a desperate attempt to escape everything that I was feeling in my head.
that's real. That's so real. And I want to just give a thank you to our coach here. He's spilling some incredible tea, but he's also being transparent and he's sharing his heart. He's sharing this life experience. In your experience, Mr. McLernon,
Mm.
what is it that what you commonly come across when teaching and coaching others? What is the kind of overlaying thing that you see people struggling with that triggers them into to this eating disorder and overeating all the time? You
Yeah,
see any
this is
patterns?
I do. And I want to say, like, ultimately, this is a multifaceted, complex problem. And it's why I work with people on an individual level. I don't do group coaching, for example. I work with everybody one on one as an individual. But there are some sort of underlying patterns that show up with these behaviors. Usually, people have a dysregulated nervous system in some way, shape, or form, whether that's through struggles with mental illness, whether that's high levels of stress. Um, there's the environment that we live in that provides us all kinds of emotional anesthetics to escape the discomfort we're feeling. There's the marketing messaging that tells us if you feel uncomfortable, use this substance to feel better. It doesn't say it in so many words, but that's essentially what we're being marketed to. And so when I start working with somebody, oftentimes one of the first things I'm trying to do is to help to regulate their brain from a neuroscience perspective, as well as help to regulate their nervous system. Because if we can get that healthier, then that can translate into better quality sleep, which still kind of falls under the umbrella of nervous system regulation. We get that foundation in place. Now we can start to work on your nutrition, your relationship with food. Now we can start to work on your fitness and your activity. But until we address the underlying drivers of your behavior and why it's happening for you, I can't force you to eat a certain way. And not that I try to anyways, but there's no the greatest meal plan, the greatest training plan in the world. These are useful tools, but they're basically meaningless because they're unless we address this foundation, anything you try to do will eventually just be overridden by this powerful impulse in your brain. And it's why I coined this term brain driven weight loss. And so it's recognizing the brain is the driver of our behaviors. And really, I will say like brain and nervous system, but your brain is the CPU or the central processing unit for your nervous system. And so everything starts there. Can we stabilize dopamine levels in your brain? Can we balance out glutamate and GABA? You don't have to remember these terms. I joke. There's no tests on this stuff, but it's the stuff that I look at is like, how do we help your brain be more balanced? How do we bring some degree of stability into it? How do we help your nervous system feel more regulated so you can be back into like in more control of your patterns of behavior and feel confident and comfortable in the situations that otherwise may previously been triggering to you?
That's real. That's right. Do you think you listed some big categories? It being a mental disorder, it could
Mhm,
be a psychokinetic disorder, it could be in your
mhm.
nervous system. Do you think society glamorizes or plays a role in our on the healthy eating habits or body images? Do you can you speak on that?
Absolutely, it does. If I was trying to create a society that was geared towards making everybody obese, we've done it. We literally hit the nail on the head. So it's in a sense almost like our biology and psychology have been weaponized against us. And I don't know that I'm all that conspiratorial in terms of thinking there's a grand conspiracy with like big food or big pharma or things like that. I definitely think there's unhealthy behavior patterns and how corporations behave. That's a whole nother sidetrack though. But we look at What is the marketing messaging? Hey, you deserve this. You've had a hard day. You deserve this. Coca-Cola had a slogan one time, and it was open a bottle of happiness. And really what that slogan should have been is open a bottle of dopamine, because that's what we're giving you. We're giving you pleasure, and pleasure and happiness are not the same thing. And so it's important to distinguish between that. And then you look at like movements like well-intentioned in some contexts, movements like body positivity, and where they say like love yourself, and these things get hijacked. They get hijacked by people on the extreme end of the spectrum who are struggling in themselves with some kind of mental illness, and they get elevated. Body positivity there's a good intention behind it. Mm-hmm. But the problem is there's this natural tendency towards, as human beings. In fact, I'll take one step back. Maybe this will help this to make a bit more sense. I like to say that we have a famine biology. Okay, what do I mean by that? Our body's natural tendency is to try to conserve energy. Now, that's made sense when we lived in a world where food was scarce and not always reliable. We had to be able to store fat quickly and then use that stored fat when we fell into a time of food shortage or food scarcity. And if you're going to have to burn that fat, you're going to have to burn it slowly and make it last, because if you burn through it too quickly, that means death. So this was a survival thing. So our natural default inclination is to move towards consuming calorie-dense foods. It's to move towards storing fat. It's to move towards being sedentary and conserving and preserving energy so that you can survive future periods of food insecurity. That's the biology that we have that's kind of underpinning some of this. We can't necessarily change the environment that we live in terms of modern fast food, convenience-driven world. That's going to stay there. We can't really change our biology. And so while we could say society plays a big role in getting us to where we're at, you may not be at fault for where you're at, but it is your responsibility to create change in your life. And if you're going to do it, you're going to have to go against the tide. You're going to have to do it in a world that doesn't necessarily support this. And you kind of have to make peace with that it's going to be a lifelong struggle. And I just want to throw one more thing out there. So people hear that I lost 100 pounds, and they're going to go, how did you do it? And what they're looking for is, can you tell me a template where I can do this to lose a whole bunch of weight? I'll just do what you did. But the reality is, you're not me. You're not living in my body, and you're not living in my life. And so while there are principles that will carry over from what I do to what you do, it is going to look unique for you as an individual, because we have to balance out these factors here.
That's true. And so when you lost, and thank you for bringing that up. I told y'all, man, a heart of pure gold. And so congratulations, you lost 100 pounds, and not only lost 100 pounds, but you also kept it off. And that's a battle in itself, because like you said, this is a lifelong journey. Some people look at weight loss like, oh, I lost the weight, I've done all the work, that's it. No, this is a lifelong commitment. This is not a one-shot deal. So that's why you mentioned the template. I can't just give you a template and you follow for the rest of your life, because throughout the course of your life, you will change, your body will change. And so your needs are changed. And that's why the continuous mentorship and coaching is necessary that you provide. And so I wanted to ask a question, those moments, because it wasn't easy. It's not easy for any of us. How did you push through when you doubted your ability to recover? How did you fight back? And when motivation fails, what kept you going?
That's a really good way to phrase that question, because motivation is fickle. Yeah. Now, motivation has sort of this certain premise behind it that I have to feel a certain way before I do something. And that's sort of a false premise, because motivation is not reliable. It depends on how refreshed you are, how well slept you are, where stress is at in your life, and so on. The other part I want to say is, like, discouragement is a natural part of the process, because when you're trying to create change in your life, it is hard. Like, I kind of chuckle because I'm like, it'd be a lot. In one sense, I'm like, I'd probably get a lot more business if I told people it's going to be fast and easy. And we've been sold fast and easy for so long and for so many years. But I think people are smarter than that, and they recognize what I'm trying to do is really hard. I've tried the fast and easy, and the fast and easy doesn't work. So there's a point in time, though. So like, what is discouragement? Discouragement is when our perceived or expected reality runs into the actual reality of life, and they don't line up. And this is harder than I thought. I'm having struggles. I'm relapsing into old behaviors, and I don't know why. I thought this wave of motivation was going to carry me, but so, well, it's not. In fact, it can't, because your brain can't keep you high all the time. So don't necessarily push away discouragement, because discouragement is actually telling you something. It's telling you this is important to you. It is something that you want. But right now it just feels really hard. And that's okay. So we're often conditioned to push away the hard emotions in our life. And this is why we're presented with all kinds of emotional anesthetics, whether it's junk food, whether it's video games, whether it's like streaming, TV and movies, and alcohol, designer drugs. All these things are various forms of emotional anesthetics that are designed to teach you or train you to the moment you feel some discomfort in your life to try to cover it up, to cope, to make it go away. If you can have the resilience to understand these difficult emotions are a part of your life, they're a part of what makes you human. And experiencing them, while it's uncomfortable, is a necessary part of the process. Being okay with sometimes having these hard emotions. And I know that honestly, a good night's sleep does wonders for getting up and going, I'm going to try again. So it's that cliched phrase. I forget exactly how it goes, but it's not about how many times you get knocked down, but how many times you get up and keep going. Yeah. If you know that as a part of the process, you will falter, you will fall down, you will struggle, you will have days that are they just suck, frankly, for lack of a better word. But if you can kind of be okay with that, what ends up happening is you don't spend as much time in the pity party. You go, and yeah, maybe you do have a day where you feel sorry for yourself, but then you dust yourself off, you get up and you go, okay, I'm going to try again, because ultimately I might have 30, 40, 50 years ahead of me still, and I want to live my life. Ultimately, I want to live my life. Now, for me, I'm a father of 2 kids, 2 boys. They're looking up to me as an example. And that, if I ever needed motivation, my little 3 or soon to be 4-year-old at the time of recording this, it's like, hey, Dad, did you do your exercises today? It's like, you are watching, little man. You are watching me. And I am helping you. Like, I'm laying down the patterns for you. And so there's something about fatherhood or parenthood that it ignites something in you. Like, I would jump in front of a bus to save my child. And before I was a parent, I would not have understood that. That is my emotionally compelling reason at this point in time, that my children are looking at me. They're looking at me to be an example. And this doesn't mean that I'm perfect. There are many times I have to get down on one knee and go to my little boy, hey, I'm sorry. I did this wrong. But you find what makes it. So in other words, to summarize, you're going to have hard emotions. The hard emotions are okay. You're even going to have relapse and struggles. That's okay. That's a part of the process. It doesn't mean something's wrong. It means you're in the process of growth. So if you can become okay with that and then tie that into your emotionally compelling reason, why am I willing to keep going? This is how discouragement may happen, but it doesn't stop you.
That's so real. That's so real. Do you coach to that? Do you encourage your clients who you mentor to seek out others, right? How important are those relationships? You mentioned your son, your daughter, who are looking up to you. I remember listening to another podcast, and we respected his host. He said, if you look at society, if you see, he thinks it's abuse to have obese kids, right? And oftentimes what you see is if the kids are obese, the parents are obese. And so that child is looking up to you for guidance, will mimic you, and mimics the habit, mimics the things that you do, mimics the things that you eat, and take on some of those lifestyle habits that mom and dad portrayed for them. But do you teach or do you encourage others to seek people out who are working towards the same things that they are? So if I want to go to a gym, I need to partner with someone that's going to a gym in addition to your coaching and mentoring. Do you advise that at all?
100% I do. I am not at all threatened by somebody else coming in and being a support to my clients. In fact, I tell them, you need to build a support team around you, because what you're trying to do is incredibly difficult. Maybe early on in my coaching career, when I wasn't confident in my abilities and I didn't, I was so worried about finding clients and like, oh no, if you're getting help from somebody else, you're going to not trust me, or you're going to leave me, or things like that. I was stuck in this kind of scarcity mindset. The wonderful thing is now I know, and I'm extremely confident in what it is that I do. And maybe this comes from years of doing it. I know what I'm good at. I know I'm good at this. In fact, I'm born to do this. And I don't say that with a trace of arrogance. It's just, I now know what my gifts are and what I'm good at, and I get to do it, which is amazing. So build your support team, because what you're trying to do, there's a lot of forces that are against you. There's, the media, and again, it's not a grand conspiracy. They're going to do what pays the bills. If I put fast food advertising in front of you, you're going to want to eat that fast food more, and the fast food companies are going to keep spending advertising dollars, right? So you have like the media, you have social messaging, you have your biology, you have just the stress of modern life that already puts your nervous system into what I will call a sympathetic dominant state. So you have all these factors against you. Why would you not want to build the biggest support team possible around you to help you do this? There is absolutely zero shame in seeking out help. I think one of the most destructive myths out there is that someone's an island. I'm a self-made person. No, you're not. The fact that we're here today, I mean, my knowledge, the fact that I possess this knowledge is not because I'm something special. It's because there were people who went before me, who studied neuroscience, who studied psychology, who got things wrong. I'm standing on this proverbial standing on the shoulders of giants. I didn't get here by myself. I got here because of other people who believed in me, who supported me, whose work is now the foundation of the work that I do. And so this idea that somehow, why would you ever think you have to do this by yourself? That is the worst idea in the world. It does not diminish me as a person to seek out help. We're literally wired. And if you want to bring faith into the picture here, we say, God says, lean on me, turn to me for help, because life is hard and life is a struggle, and you have a nature that you're going to wrestle with, and it's going to be stronger than you at times. You need my help. I like people. I mean, people like to say things like, God won't give you something you can't handle. And I'm like, let's rephrase that a little bit. In fact, God will give you something that will bring you to the end of your abilities, where your abilities are not enough. So that you will turn to him and you will get the help that you need. But what's amazing about going through those experiences, like the hard stuff that I've been through, is I now know, in so much greater measure, what my abilities are. I know what I bring to the table. I know what I offer, because God has brought me through experiences that cause me to grow and to refine these things. If we can love or at least appreciate the journey that we're on and the struggle, that how it produces strength of character, it produces growth, it produces maturity. Maybe we don't despise so much the difficulty of it, because it's working gold into us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. That's so true. That's so true. No one gets to the top by themselves. There are a lot of people that despise mentors. There's a lot of people that despise coaches. They don't want to reach out to coaches. They don't want to reach out for support. No one gets out of this alive, and no one makes it to the top by themselves. And that stretching and bringing you to your final breaking point is where most of us get to, and then oftentimes, like you mentioned earlier, some of us give up. But he's bringing us to those moments not for us to give up or quit, but he's stretching us to show us what your capabilities are. These are your limits. These are your physical limits. You are done. Now it's time to get some professional help. Now it's time to get out to a coach. Now it's time to get out to a mentor. And now it's time to reach out to your spiritual father in heaven. But you need to reach out, irregardless of what that looks like.
It's what I love. I joke that I'm trying to create referral business, not repeat business. And it translates, whether it's in the coaching world or the world of the gospel or whatever. It's like, that you're doing your job when your people go from being disciples to creating disciples. I know that I've done a good job or a great job when the people that I've helped are now telling other people and encouraging and helping other people, and our work multiplies. And the great part about it is I don't even have to know about it, because it's not about me. That's the key in all of this. I say that, look, when I come to work with somebody, it's like we're going to do a driving lesson. And maybe we're going to do a few driving lessons. You are still driving that car. You're in the driver's seat. And it's very, very important that you are, because I'm only going to be with you for a certain amount of time, but you still need to know how to drive the car. So let's say you already have some idea. I kind of know how to drive a car, but I need to tune this up a little bit. I've developed some bad habits and things. Awesome. When I'm sitting in the passenger seat, I'm not stressed about driving your car. So while you're focused on getting down the road safely, I'm looking at other things around you. What are the things you're doing? Because of the depth of experience that I have, I've worked with well over 1,000 clients by this point in time. I can spot things that you might not even be looking for. I'm not encumbered by maybe the emotional baggage that you might be carrying with you. And so I can help you do this better, but you always get to be in the driver's seat. That's the most important part of this. So me coming into your life and helping you is not about me taking glory for myself or putting somebody into my trophy case. It's about me seeing in you what is possible for you, helping you to see it enough that you believe it's possible for you. And if you believe it's possible, you will then work towards it. So there's a really important thing here when it comes from neuroscience perspective. Our brain has a failure detector. Our brain has a motivation kill switch, and it exists for a reason. It exists because we do not want to waste energy on something that is futile or a lost cause. And when we go to embark on a change journey, what our brain is doing is it's creating a prognosis, it's calculating from past experience, what is the likelihood that I'm going to succeed? Now, if you've had a number of years of struggle, your brain's likely going to tell you, hey, there's not a very good chance of you succeeding. Now, I come along, I'm not encumbered by that at all. I joke that my coaching superpower is X-ray vision. I don't mean I can see your skeleton. I'm not a psychic. I'm not clairvoyant, but I can read you, and I can read you pretty good. And I really think some of this is just a gift from God. I don't know how I do it, but I can see something in you. And I go, if I can only help you see what's possible for you, because I can see it. And I want you to see it. You can even borrow my belief in you until you believe in yourself. But if you believe that this is possible, and if I help you to believe this is possible, you will move towards this. You will do this. If you don't believe it's possible, no amount of training, of nutrition, of any of these great things, these great tools that I could give you will amount to anything, because your brain has a motivation kill switch that's twice as strong as the motivation switch.
That's so true. That's so real. Another round of applause for Coach McLernon. This is huge, 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 huge. These are golden nuggets. So I want to shift a little bit, because we got the grand poobah speaking to our eating disorders right here, and speaking to our humanity in us. And so I want to shift focus to the positive. And if you can share some of the positives of what you incurred, what happened to you when you transformed and lost 100 pounds. What did that do to your identity beyond just the physical? Because it probably feels good to lose 100 pounds. Right?
Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, like a lot of people come to me and say, I would like to have more confidence. Now, one thing I'll tell people is you don't have to wait to see a number on the scale or an image in the mirror before you develop confidence, right? But there's something that comes from having to work towards something, to struggle and wrestle and earn something. There's a strength of character, a trust in yourself, a confidence that you get that becomes unshakable, because you realize, not that I'm never going to struggle again. To this day, I still have struggles that I wrestle with, but I know that that I have the tools, the skills, the ability, and the support team around me, that whatever I am faced with, that they can help me through it, or I can get through it. And so I went from being the jolly fat guy. That was me. I was the jolly fat guy. Now, why was I the jolly fat guy? Because in my mind, I didn't think it was possible for me to not be that. And so I tried to embrace this sense of identity. I'm going to be the fun fat guy at the party that likes to eat, encourages everybody else to eat. And it was really just covering over my own insecurities. If I laugh about what it is and pretend that I'm happy being fat, nobody making fun of me being fat will hurt my feelings. And it was really this thing that I did to protect myself. But I knew deep down at my core, I didn't want to be this thing. I just didn't know that it was possible. And so when you embark on the process, and when you go through this transformation, you come out the other side of it and you realize, like, wow, I can do like really incredible things in my life. It is actually possible. So much of, I mean, it sounds cliche, but so much of what like causes us to struggle is not lack of ability, but it's a lack of belief in our abilities, and a lack of willingness to go through the struggle to refine and develop and cultivate those abilities. And so the reason I call myself a coach, like, I'm not a guru. I'm not sitting here on a pedestal, like speaking down to you as someone who's an underling or a peon. I'm speaking to you as a peer and as an equal, as a fellow human being who sees something in you. And so I'm here to help facilitate your transformation, but it goes back to, you get to be in the driver's seat. And when you come out the other side and you feel more confident, when you know what you're able, it is absolutely life-changing. My marriage is so much better now, because I don't feel so sensitive around, my wife might say something inadvertently and I get mad because somehow it makes me feel insecure. This doesn't happen anymore. Like, we can have these open, deep, and meaningful conversations. We come into conflict with each other, as is inevitable in marriage, and we can work through it without like fighting and character attacking each other and things like that. We can wrestle and struggle with things together, because now I realize that whatever things I might be struggling with, I have the ability to work through it and get past it.
That's so rude. That's so huge. Huge, huge, huge. And thank you for sharing that insight. It is absolutely life-changing. You're so right. I remember a long time ago, in my teenage years, I was the glorified fat boy as well in elementary and junior high growing up. So, and then my mom found this wonder drug. She found a wonder drug and she gave it to me as an experiment to prove to people that this stuff works. And so I literally, in one summer, I had lost a significant amount of weight, to the point that no one recognized me.
Yeah.
And so I go to now junior high school, and no one, I'm walking past friends of mine who are walking past me and don't even recognize me. And the feeling it does, the psychological feeling it does, the energy, right? And just like you said, it changed your marriage. It transformed almost everything around you. So there's not just the physical aspect of it, but there's a psychological difference because I did better in school, right? Because I'm feeling better. I'm able to stay up late. I'm not tired. I'm not exhausted. I'm not burnt out. I'm able to stand up longer for longer periods of time, which coincidentally, I ended up working 3-4 jobs. Now that's because I had so much energy to burn now. And so it's way more than physical. It's
absolutely.
way more.
And there's a fear that, like, what am I going to have to give up? And I want to be real about this. There are some things about being over 300 pounds that had some benefit. I don't want to pretend there's not, because sometimes there's this idea that it all sucks. No, I tell you what, when I'm smashing a buffet and pounding delicious food with reckless abandon, there is some part of my brain that was enjoying that. And there was this recognition. I wrote this letter, Dear Old Me. And I wrote this letter as a part of my transformation. And it went, so, I don't even remember exactly how it went. I could dig it up, but it was like, man, we had some good times at buffets. Man, we ate a lot of pizza. We really, and I know that you really enjoy doing those things. I was like, almost like writing about a metaphorical death, a death of an identity and a persona that I had to put behind me in order to move forward, because there's this fascinating thing. Our brain likes something called homeostasis. It likes to keep conditions the same, so it's predictable, so I can keep you safe. When you're going to go through an identity shift, because you have to see yourself as a different person if you're going to become a different person, right? You have to have a picture in your head of what you're going to work towards and what you're going to become, if that's going to be possible, because there's no great thing that was ever created that first wasn't an idea conceived in your head. So you have to shift this sense of identity. Now your brain's going to resist some of that, right? It's because it's like, no, it's safe. Let's keep things safe. I had to go, dear old me, here's all these things that you are. And you know what? I don't even blame you for some of these things, because I know you were doing this because you didn't have something better. You didn't know that there was a better way to deal with this thing you were struggling with. And so I showed myself compassion. I said, hey, we know that smashing an entire extra large double cheese, double pepperoni pizza is not a healthy thing to do, but you were doing it because it was a coping tool that you had and you didn't feel like there was a better option available to you in the moment. So compassion is not a get out of jail free card, but it's saying, I understand why you were doing that thing. I'm not going to enable you and tell you to keep doing that thing, but I'm not going to hate on you because you did that thing in the depths of your struggle and your pain and your despair. And so it's like I had to go through this metaphorical death of leaving behind this person that I once was, this identity and this persona, if I was ever going to move into becoming this new person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You had to in order to grow into your best life. And sorry to the death of the cheeseburger. It must die. It must die.
Oh man, that is awesome.
Must die. But yeah, this is powerful. We have to go, unfortunately, to a quick commercial break. You guys don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And more of this incredible Coach McLernon.
Hey guys, this is your boy Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And we are here in Patrick Henry Mall, Newport News, Virginia. We're actually here for something unique just inside. Something new, brand new that we want to explore together. You guys ready? All right, here we go. Hey, boss. Heard you were an athlete, man. See you at the mall every day. We are at Patrick Henry Mall, living up, and we are talking about CBD. But first off, the normal thing that we all deal with is joint pain, back pain, suffer from everything.
Neck pain, too.
Neck pain? You got some neck pain?
All the time, man. I'm getting up in age, you know what I'm saying? We're not young no more.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. Bruh, CBD helps with that exact same thing. Neck pain, back pain, joint pain, all the pains, everywhere pain, right? And so that's what CBD does. That's what we're here to help you and me do. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
All right.
CBD is one of the most powerful cannabinoids because all it's focused on is the health and wellness. We're talking helping people with anxiety, depression, insomnia, sleep deprivation, all provided. CBD works with the natural mechanics of your body without the crazy side effects of Western medicine. So these products are here to actually align your body and get it back right so we can actually have a better quality of life. And that's what CBD does.
Support for Gentleman Style Podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers you precision engineering tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off free worldwide shipping with the code GENSTYLE at manscaped.com.
To the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And we have the incredible guest, Mr. Coach McLernon. He's here on the Gentleman Style Podcast speaking to emotional eating disorders and the behaviors and the mindsets around these eating disorders, how he lost 100 pounds and kept it off, and how he's helping change the world today for the absolute better. If you missed any of that, go back, scroll back, check him out. He's absolutely powerful, and this is what he's here spilling the tea on Gentleman Style Podcast Show today. We are on iHeartRadio, Apple iTunes, Spotify, Facebook business page, Ghana Radio, Apple iTunes, Audible, and anywhere you get your podcast. You can find him here today. Absolute incredible. Mr. McLernon, sir, you have shared so many nuggets this incredible episode. I wanted to touch on something that is unique, and it's the new thing on the block, right? Everybody's TikToking and dancing and doing the thing. Ozempic, the medications, the Wegovy, the weight loss medications. What is your stance on using medication or surgery as a part of the recovery process from an eating disorder?
I'm not opposed to it.
Really?
I'll say that. No. I definitely take a very cautious approach to it. And I definitely want someone, if they're considering it, to come at it from a very, very informed perspective. But it is, for some people, it might just be life-saving. And I say that carefully because there's some real difficult long-term ramifications. I had a friend nearly die after having bariatric surgery because she got so nutrient depleted, and it took doctors a number of months to figure out what was going on, and she looked like death warmed over, and like there's a lot of potential ramifications. But what you have to do is you have to weigh up the kind of the cost benefit here. You go, okay, if I stay, 100, 150, 200 pounds overweight, what is that doing to my cardiovascular system, my heart health? And is that even reversible? What is that doing to my liver and my fatty liver disease? What's that doing to my insulin resistance, diabetes, all these different things? If I go through this, it has the potential for a life-changing transformation. Now, there's people out there who are going to look at it and go, this is just a cop-out. And I'm like, no, it's not. But it's like it shouldn't be your first stop. It's after you've tried a lot of things, and it's very, very clear that just where you're at, whatever it happens to be with your psychology, your physiology, your emotional health, your mental health, like you just can't exert and apply yourself with a level of dedication, energy, and effort needed to get there on your own. The thing is, if it's done right, it's not done on its own. It is still done with a tremendous amount of psychological support, emotional support. You still have to pursue health in this journey. It is not a magic quick fix. It is not an easy way out. So I would rather it be rare, and I would rather it be used with a high degree of caution, but I won't say never use it. Just know that there can be some real long-term ramifications. If you're using it because you just want to lose, let's say Ozempic because you want to lose 10 or 15 pounds, that's a terrible idea. Do you really want to risk osteoporosis for 10 or 15 pounds? No. But if you're 150 pounds overweight or something like that, and you find that you're at a very, very high risk and in not a long window of time for developing a very severe, if not life-threatening conditions or diseases, this might be worth doing. But you got to think your way very carefully through something like this because there are some very serious risks that come with it.
Absolutely. Are there any particular medications or surgeries that you do encourage, or maybe not encourage, that's the wrong word, but you do say, yeah, man, go for it. Are there any good ones out there?
I have clients who are using Mounjaro, Wegovy, Ozempic. I think I think it's Wegovy, at least in Canada. Wegovy is the only one that's actually approved for weight loss. Ozempic gets used in off-label fashion. My inclination is like you gotta speak to your doctor about this. You got to do some blood work beforehand, make sure things are okay for this. But I would probably choose a GLP-1 medication like Ozempic, Mounjaro, Wegovy, these sorts of things before I would go the surgical route, because at least with these GLP-1 medications, there's a very good chance you can reverse a lot of the potential difficult conditions that will happen. But I think it's very, very important if you're going to use these things that you also engage in strength training to help keep your bones strong. That's a very important aspect of it, because osteoporosis is a very real thing that can come from these medications, as one of them. Another drawback can be what's called gastroparesis. That can be your digestive tract, because what it's doing is it's actually slowing down how food moves through your digestive tract. You use this for long enough, and you can end up with a partially paralyzed GI or gastrointestinal tract. And so it's also a thing where you don't want to be on this for the rest of your life. You want to use it as needed to get you to a place and then work your way off of that. And that's often what ends up happening with my clients. And again, as a coach, I'm not threatened if someone chooses one of these interventions, because they're still going to need my help to get through it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Thank you for that perspective. That's huge. And that's very detailed. And so again, what you said is, if it's going to make a difference, if your life is about to end, you don't have long to live, you've been diagnosed or pre-diabetic or pre anything, pre-death, right? This may be something that you need to do, not necessarily that you want to do, but like Mr. McLernon said, consider all options and consider and do your research, do your studies, and sit down and get a first opinion, get a second opinion, maybe even get a third opinion.
This surgery will change your life, but that's not always a good thing. Yeah. And so your life may be forever changed in ways that you're not prepared for, hence why the need for psychological support as well. Right? It becomes very, very crucial. And so you'll often hear it spoken about. I mean, if you go down the internet rabbit hole, you could go down probably some Reddit rabbit hole and hear all the horror stories that ever existed from someone having this done, right? Or you could go down the social media highlight reel and hear all of the amazing things that have ever occurred, because the way that social media exists is really, whatever is the most emotive gets pushed to the top. So if it's going to scare the heck out of you or make you feel euphoric, it's going to get pushed to the top. As with most things in life, it's we need to take a very balanced perspective on this, and a very careful perspective, a very thoughtful perspective on it. And the modern media environment that we live in does not really offer that. It's this is going to change your life, or this is going to ruin your life. And it's like the real answer lies somewhere in between that.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And speaking to the psychological, I had a friend, she had the gastric sleeve surgery. And, I was just saying, like, what is the benefit? What is the overall encompassed benefit of this surgery? Well, it's to force me to eat less. Do you know you can do that without the surgery? You can keep your stomach and just eat less food. It's done. It's been done. It's being done. It's called a deficit, right? You just not necessarily starve yourself, but you calorie count. And so you don't need to remove your stomach in order to eat less food.
So here's an interesting thing. Because I struggle with food addiction, and I have a brain that tends towards addiction naturally. So I can get addicted to video games. I can get addicted to streaming video. I can get addicted to doom scrolling on social media. I don't keep social media apps on my phone. For a long time, I was ashamed of my struggles around this, because I thought it's a shameful thing that I can fall into addiction very, very easily. I've made peace with the brain that I have. I have an amazing brain in some regards. I joke, I got it free of charge. I can't take the credit for it, right? But I got a really, really great brain when it comes to coaching, when it comes to working with people. I can do all these really amazing things. But there's another side to my brain, and that is that I have a very strong tendency towards addiction. I have to be very careful. I have to monitor my environment and make sure that I'm open and transparent about things I'm struggling with, especially with my wife, just to make sure that I don't fall into these other traps here. Now, when someone comes to work with me, I've had recovered addicts that come to me. Their brain is forever changed. And the things that we might normally suggest that they do aren't not necessarily going to work as effectively. So one of the things that I want to do is help stabilize the brain chemistry. Because let's just say, yes, a calorie deficit is a very, very, it's essential. You can't lose weight without a calorie deficit. But we go, in order to apply yourself to a calorie deficit requires some degree of conscious mental effort. Well, how much conscious mental energy does your brain actually have? we might first have to work on bringing your energy back into balance so you have enough of this thinking brain to actually apply towards a calorie deficit. Because if you don't have that, you're gonna perceive that you're failing at this thing. Like, why can't I stick to my calories? It's because the impulse that's driving you to eat that unhealthy food is stronger than your desire to restrict your calories, because ultimately you're trying to escape the pain. So let's balance out your brain chemistry. We might use a couple of key supplements to help you do that. We might use some nervous system regulation techniques to do that. But let's bring that into balance so it doesn't feel like you're white knuckling your way through every day of your life just trying to apply yourself to a calorie deficit. So that when it comes time to do this, because I help people quit smoking too. I help people break free from alcohol. Like, addiction's a hard thing, but it's like I have some tools that I can help you with that. And I'm being ever so slightly vague because I'm like, some of this stuff, I don't know if anybody else is doing this. And I'm like, I want to keep a little bit to me. No. But it's like, I don't know who else out there is doing this in the world of coaching. I'm sure there's other people out there, maybe, but like the way that I can put things together for you to make this transition so much easier is pretty remarkable. And you might not need surgery if we can help do some of these other things here. But there won't be a doctor that's going to talk to you about this. This is not a grand conspiracy. It just means your doctor doesn't have time to go into this level of depth with you. But I do. That's why I do what I do, and I love what I do.
Absolutely. How do you? I want to backpedal a little bit. As you said, there is the negative Nancy's out there who says it can't be done. I don't have a disorder, right? It's hard for the addiction brain. You talked about your brain. It's hard for the addiction brain to realize I have a problem. And so there are people that will tell you I don't have a problem, and food addiction is not a real thing. How do you respond to those critics who say food addiction isn't real?
I will say, maybe in your world, the way that you see things and the way that your brain works, you don't perceive this as something that's real because it's not been a part of your lived experience. And there are people out there that go, well, I just got disciplined, knuckled down, and I just did it. And it's like, well, this is me and my strength of character. It's like, well, I don't think you fully understand what it's like to be in the grips of a brain that's like powerfully driven towards addiction. It is not a character flaw. I didn't ask to have this brain that tends towards addiction. I didn't put up my hand and say, hey, you know what? God, could you please give me a brain that really wants to be addicted to things? Please give me that one just to make life extra challenging, right? So de-shaming this tendency, like the addiction itself is not helpful. It is harmful. But de-shaming it to the extent that I realize that this is not necessarily a character flaw, that I'm struggling with this thing. But the key here is compassion is not about enabling an unhealthy. Just because you struggle with this means you should probably keep going with your addiction. No. That's not compassion. That's enabling. But we say, hey, you're not a bad person for what you're struggling with. Let's help you understand this struggle so we can actually take away this identity piece, the story that you describe yourself as this thing, create a bit of separation when you and this identity that says I'm an addict. And then we start working towards like the better version of you. We talk about that metaphorical death, leaving that person behind, that sense of identity, that persona behind, and you go towards this. But the important thing is working with the kind of brain that you have versus fighting against it with something that's not going to work because it's not customized to you and your brain.
Absolutely. Do you feel our schools should be doing more to educate our children? Because as a parent, you can only control your child and what they eat, maybe traditionally when they're around you, but you can pack lunches, you can give them lunches to go to school with, you can pack lunch. But do you feel that schools should be doing more to educate children around emotional eating and food addiction disorders?
That would be a really interesting one. I probably wouldn't do it in like the earlier years because I'm not sure that they have yet the cognitive capacity to fully make sense of it. I would kind of want to simplify that, but definitely as they move into the teen years, maybe the last 3 to 4 years of high school, you talk more seriously about this, where you go, this is the potential, this is the world that we live in. But I really would want to engage with kids. Like the thing that doesn't work is to just dump a bunch of facts on people and go like, hey, if you do this, you're going to die. It's like, well, okay. Like the warnings on cigarettes don't stop people from smoking because
True.
And it's not that they're necessarily a bad thing, but it's drastically incomplete like that. So if you were going to bring something like that into schools, it really needs to be an engaging thing where you like almost make the kids a part of the process. But I think that we don't give kids enough credit in one sense that they're not entirely unaware that something's unhealthy. If you go to any high school in North America and you go, hey, is drinking 4 liters of Mountain Dew a day healthy? Pretty sure they're going to have a pretty good idea that it's not. Right. So I would want to approach this from a different way where they're engaged with the process, they come to understand like why these things happen, why does this exist, why do companies develop it in this way? Because it's like, hey, if you put this additive in this food, you tell a company this, you put this flavoring ingredient in this food, you're going to sell 40% more product. Of course, they're going to put that thing in there because they want to sell more product. So it needs to be part of a more holistic conversation about like sense of identity, sense of self, the kind of health that you want, the environment that you live in. So it's a challenging thing to do, but I think done at the right time, the best thing we can do is just equip kids with tools and some degree of intentional understanding, and then go, hey, if you need some help, we're here.
So you wouldn't make it mandatory in schools in the later years. You're recommending the later years, but would you make it mandatory? Is like, hey, take this course, just like kind of some schools are adopting sex education. I
probably would. But I would first want to design a really like a well-designed program.
For sure.
A really, and that's a hard thing to do. And you go, what am I trading off? If I'm going to take some of a kid's educational time and put it towards this thing here, what do I have to get rid of to make that a possibility? Right. And so you have to do it with some degree of thought, but it's like, why don't we talk about mortgages? Why don't we talk about credit cards? Why don't we talk about like investing? Why don't we teach kids about this stuff? Because you could argue that the education system wasn't geared towards helping people do these things. And so you might find some pushback, but I would say, hey, parents, maybe don't wait for the school, like educate yourself so that you can have these conversations with your kids. Probably one of the best books out there is like How to Talk So Kids Will Listen, How to Listen So Kids Will Talk.
That's a good one. I got to check that book out.
But there's a whole series on it. Like it's incredible. Communication is a huge aspect of like helping to get ideas across and believed.
Absolutely. And you're so right. It's educating ourselves and not necessarily making it mandatory to punish you, but to kind of make it front and center in the front of your mind that this is important. And then you're also right. You can't open Pandora's box. If you open this box, you have to open all the boxes, right? You have to open and break it all loose and say, why aren't we talking about finances? Why aren't we talking about eating disorders? And the whole thing as a comprehensive, holistic approach, like you said. So super huge. I wanted to ask a question. How do you measure your success for your clients? Is it just the weight loss, or is it do you see progress in the psychoanalysis that you do?
I like to say that side effects might include weight loss. Right? Because in reality, weight loss is a proxy goal. It's not really what you want. It's a means to an end. So we go, what do you actually want? Well, I want to look good in my clothes. I want to feel comfortable at the beach. I want to get down on the floor and play with my kids or my grandkids. I want to take up this sport again. Maybe I want to take up dragon boat racing or rock climbing or scuba diving or something. It's a means to an end. It's a way to facilitate a different lifestyle that you would like to have. I'd like to have more energy. I'd like to sleep better. All of these different things. And so weight loss is just one. It's a proxy goal. And so I almost want to move people away from weight loss. I meet you where you're at. You say you want to lose weight. Absolutely. I'm going to help you lose weight. But I hope that over time, I'm going to move you away from that being the primary goal, because so much of that is about let's take away and restrict. And I go, what do you want to add into your life? What do you want to build into your life? It's so much more encouraging to move towards what you want to be versus wrestle with what you don't. It's like driving down the road. You got to check your rearview mirror from time to time. Absolutely. But if you drive down the road staring at the rearview mirror, you're going to crash. Right. So if you only look at the thing you're trying to move away from, it's not very inspiring. And so it's like, well, what does weight loss really mean to me? What will I be able to do? How, and it's about creating that very clear vision of this is the kind of person that I want to become. This is the thing that I want to be able to do. And even create like a visual representation of it. Call it like a carpe diem board or something like that. You get a little pin board or cork board or something, and you start putting some things up where you see a visual reminder of this is what I'd like to work towards. And the reason I think that's important is because we're surrounded by so many cues and triggers to do the things that aren't healthy. So many cues to drink alcohol excessively, cues to eat excessive amounts of junk food that make it seem just fun and benign and all the rest of it. So you need to get clear on what you would like to move towards and do and what you'd like to add into your life, but also then make it visual, something that you can see on a regular basis. So you're reminded, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. This is who I want to become.
Absolutely. I want to touch on we tried to stay away from it, but I feel like compelled to talk about
Bring it in.
Big Pharma.
Yeah.
Do you think that big pharma and the healthcare system could better support those with eating disorders than what it's currently doing today?
Unquestionably.
Yeah.
You have a for-profit medical system, says the guy who's from Canada. That's a problem because whenever there is a profit motive, now I run a business, and so I'm not opposed to earning profit. It's the pursuit of excess profit at the detrimental expense of others that's problematic. And this is what ends up happening. It's the corrupt pursuit of profit at the expense of people's health versus trying to help people. And so motive really matters here. I joke the difference between persuasion and manipulation is intent. So am I trying to help you better yourself, or am I just trying to get something for myself out of this deal? And so much of what we see around the medical system is you have what seem to be like vultures. I don't know. I couldn't say definitively, is there a broad, grand conspiracy where all these different companies have conspired together to make everybody sick? Or is it this sort of unhealthy evolution that, like, as we've introduced products that drive down the health of people and they don't have the tools to get back to a state of health, then they turn to and create a dependency on pharmaceutical companies to try to create a magic pill? Like, where's the real balance there? So, but the one thing I do know is we can't necessarily change the world that we live in. We may not be at fault for the exact place that we're at because of what we didn't know. But if you are ever going to create change in your life, it's going to come down to your individual personal responsibility and choice to make change. But knowing that it's hard to do, get people in your support network around you who believe in you, who see you, who want to help and support you. Don't try to do this alone, but you do have to be the one in the driver's seat, even if there's other people in your car.
That's so true. Mr. McLernon, I wanted to ask this question because it's significant and it's profound. And I oftentimes catch myself looking back at my life and saying, I wish I had this information earlier. What's one piece of advice you wish you had received during your recovery? And what's one piece of advice you would leave to that young girl, that young boy out in the audience whose back is against the wall? They don't know if they can do this. And they don't know. What would you say to them? What was the one you would have received? And what's the one you wish you'd give?
You're not broken, and there's not something wrong with you. Your brain and body are operating the way that they're engineered to do. And so instead of trying to fight the thing that you are, the person that you are, let's work with you the way that your brain works, the way that your body and biology works. But most importantly, I would say that the foundation of transformational change is this compassionate awareness. In order to change what we do, we have to become aware of our problematic behaviors. But becoming aware of our problematic behaviors does not mean that we're a bad person. It means that we're just struggling with something and we're a human being. So compassionate awareness is the foundation for transformational change in your life.
Sir, the train has left the station. You are on the move. You're changing lives. But how can people find you? How can people connect with you and your team to get on board? It's not too late to get on board.
That's right. freedomnutritioncoach.com. That's a great place to find me. At Freedom Nutrition Coach is on most social media platforms now. But I'd say just go to the website. Look me up there. You can book a free complimentary 30-minute consultation with me. I'm just going to chat with you like a real human being. There's no hard sales pitch. I just want to figure out, can I help you? Am I the right person to help you? And if so, great, we'll talk about it. If not, I'll see if I can point you in the direction of someone who can. But it all starts with just a real simple human-to-human conversation.
Love it, love it, love it. We got to let this incredible rock star go. He's changing lives literally every single day. And so I hope this message was helpful. I hope this was impactful. And I hope this helps you change your life and get on board and change your life for the better. All right, y'all, we got to go. Like we end every show, I want to say this to you publicly, Mr. McLernon. Thank you for doing what you do and never quit. We need you. We need what you're doing.
Thank you so much for hosting this space. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like we end every show, take care of your friends, take care of your family, and always, always take care of business. This is Marcus, your favorite gentleman, and the superfragilistic espialidocious, Mr. Coach Jon McLernon, signing off. Love you guys. Bye.